Yeah, just 2 seconds. I'm making the recording on. Yeah, so good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the class on smart materials and structures. So, what we were dealing in the last class, can anyone brief out me quickly? We were dealing related to what in the previous class?
Vibration control through shape memory alloys.
Yeah, so how to control the vibration by using the shape memory alloys. So, we dealt with 4 configuration: test 1 configuration, test 2, test 3, and test 4. So how to enhance the vibration, how to control it, and how you get a better result by adding the patch of piezoelectric material also we dealt about in the previous class, right? So how you can check whether the resonance what you're getting for the piezo element as well as the SMA wire will be lying within the phase or outside the phase. So that also we dealt about how to provide a clear indication for the response of amplifications with the use of PZT crystals. So all these things we dealt to see that how the vibration which is coming into picture in a beam could be controlled, yeah, enhanced by using the shape memory alloy as well as with the use of piezoelectric crystals. So this we dealt about in our last class. So the same thing now we are going for the next topic related to multiplexing embedded nickel titanium based actuators. So we have now until now we have studied using a single wire of SMA wire or 2 wires on 2 cantilever beams and to see how the vibration can be controlled. Similarly, now we want to use these nickel based titanium shape memory alloys together, right? So that it provides a multiplexing effect when you use that as a device called as actuators. We have worked and studied on piezoelectric actuators and transducers, right? So similarly, now we want to focus it for nickel based shape memory alloy based actuators. What is the need for multiplexing when you have studied already and one dimensional shape memory alloy, right? Because a individual device can yield some output, but when you add on n number of shape memory alloys together into a single compact device, obviously it helps in getting a better output results. So it could be actuators, yeah, load cell, yeah, transducers, yeah, any type of sensor for that purpose. So this is the second device what we are analyzing with respect to shape memory alloys. So the first one was a cantilever beam where we used shape memory alloy wires to control the vibrational aspects. And now how the multiplexing or using this nickel based titanium alloy layer by layer in series, yeah, parallel will help in providing an magnificent result for actuators. So this we'll be going to study in this today's class. So before starting, you know that SMA wire actuators or any other device will respond to the amount of heat what you are applying. So with that background, let us start with the things as per multiplexing concept. So here you can see that in many applications, the response time of SMA actuators is usually limited by the heat transfer. So how does a actuator based of SMA response to the time? It mainly depends upon what is the amount of heat subjected to it. So how it gets converted from austenite to that of the martensite phase. So if the heat supplied is very less, so the how the actuator responds with respect to that particular time also depends. Suppose you're subjecting a large amount of heat for a very short period of time, right? So for very that short period of time, the SMA device has to respond quickly for that temperature, right? So then only it can get the austenite and martensite phase with expansion and compression. Suppose if you're submitting a small amount of heat for a very long period of time, then the actuators will be having a long period of time to respond for the subjected heat. So this is a thing what one has to understand. So based on the response time given to the shape memory alloy actuators, you can fix some of the applications related to the amount of heat transferred. So this is the main thing what you have to consider while putting SMA actuator to any kind of applications. So always it is time constraint. So how it does respond? Is the response time given is very short, medium, or and long period of time? And what is the amount of heat supplied? Is it very less, medium, or and higher value? So these parameters plays a vital role in having a specific application for shape memory based alloys. Okay, so typically you have to see that the rapid heating can be achieved, but the time needed for cooling is long compared to vibratory period of typical mechanical or civil structures. So what do you mean? Suppose a SMA device is designed in such a way that it needs a rapid heat treatment. So obviously you can shoot out the temperature by supplying a large amount of heat, because the shape memory alloys will be able to withstand that heat and then change the phase from one to the other, because it has super elastic behavior and plasticity will not come into picture. So subjecting a very rapid heating could be successfully achieved in SMA actuators. But the problem is the same thing has to be cooled down very quickly, right? But that doesn't happen. Why? Because it needs a specific time for cooling. You cannot say that when you have subjected the shape memory alloys for around 1500 degrees Celsius, and if you feel that within a matter of second it should come down to the lower temperature below zero or near to zero, it is impossible. Why? It needs a particular time within which it gradually cools down. You can supply the heat with respect to the heat rate what you are designed, right? 5 degrees Celsius per minute, yeah, 10 degrees Celsius per minute, whatever the heat rate you will set up in the furnace or from through what device you are subjecting the heat. So based on that it increases. So the same rate will be applicable for cooling down also. Again, it is a factor of time. So with respect to time, the cooling rate also will reduce and come down. So it needs specific time and a very long time compared to that of mechanical or civil structures. So even apart from SMA actuators, you will be having other mechanical devices where you use a pure cantilever beam subjected to an mass at the tip. So the vibration period, what you have subjected, can come back to its original position in a small period of time, or any other civil structure. But when it compares with that of a shape memory alloy based devices, you can heat easily, but it takes a very long period of time to cool down. Okay, so this is one thing what you have to consider while making and multiplexing embedded nickel based actuators. So this is one of the limitation which has to be overcome basically. In order to overcome, a unique approach was being found suitable to overcome this inherent limitation. So I told you, all the devices or the material will be having its own plus points and drawbacks. Keeping the plus points in mind, you have to see that how these drawbacks could be overcome. Similarly, in case of shape memory alloy actuators also, it has a very good response to temperature, high pressure, loading, and it can withstand any number of high amount of strain and stress induced in it due to the application of heat and phase change from martensite to austenite or from austenite to martensite, right? But only the drawback is it needs a very long period of time to reduce the temperature and cool it down as per the requirement. So this is only the drawback. So the people started thinking how this drawback could be overcome. And hence, to overcome this drawback, a unique approach was being developed. So this approach is nothing but what we are now understanding and studying, right? So this approach was mainly based on using many nickel titanium based wires. So all these nickel based wires are nothing but our shape memory alloy wires of nickel group classification, right? So in this approach, they used many number of nickel based titanium wires as actuators. So this were used as an actuator. So what does the actuator does? It receives is actuator will take the input as a mechanical loading or the voltage as an input. Anyone can let me know? We have studied this already in our piezo materials. What is the input for the actuators? Anyone in the class?
Mechanical load.
You will take mechanical loading to it. Is it so? Think and let me know. Actuator follows direct piezo effect or indirect? You have done with your internals also. This is a basic thing. Kindly answer properly. We studied this in the first module.
It is like direct system, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actuators are direct system. It utilizes the
What does it use as an input?
mm,
Others in the class? Only one in the class, is it? Answer me properly.
voltage, ma'am.
It takes voltage or mechanical loading?
Voltage.
Voltage, right? Yeah. Then
Yes.
why did you answer first wrong? Please understand the concept. Actuators goes with converse piezo effect. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sensors goes with direct piezo effect. So in actuators, always you take voltage as an input and it provides the displacement, your mechanical strain, your required mechanical stress as an output due to the deformation which come into picture for the subjection of the voltage as an input. So in that case, in voltage as an input, voltage will be greater than 0 and the force applied will be equal to 0. Okay, so this concept we have studied already. You have to remember the concepts. So in the same way, in this approach, we will be using many nickel-based wires as actuators. Okay, in parallel and energizing subsets of these during successive cycles of structure motion. So leave this. So currently, the approach, the limitation what we had, that will be overcome by a new approach. And in this new approach, we'll be using several nickel-based titanium wires as actuators. Okay, so this is the new formation what we will be dealing up. So by using this nickel-based titanium alloys, effectively it was able to reduce the control authority for increased frequency response. So when we use SMA wires for actuators, so it will respond to the applied input. So this type of SMA wires connected in parallel were able to control the authority or the control the constraints for increasing the response at higher frequency range. Okay. So what happened is this made an array of actuators to have an effective bandwidth which can be achieved. Okay. And here you can see that the bandwidth what you get will be effective even for a single actuator. Sometimes what used to happen, if you use a single SMA wire as an actuator, then the bandwidth response what you get for the frequency was comparatively smaller. But since you are using n number of wires embedded as an actuator in parallel connection, this really helped to enhance the effective bandwidth of it. So I'll just show you the diagram. You will understand. Okay. So these are the theoretical timing of SMA excitation and the beam response. So you can see here the actuator wires 1, 2, 3, and 4. So like 4 actuator wires made up of nickel based titanium alloys are connected in parallel here to make an actuator. Since it provides, every wire will respond to a particular frequency with respect to particular bandwidth. So it results in having an enhancement in the bandwidth because you are not using a single wire, you are using n number of wires. So depending upon the application, whether you need a very high bandwidth response, a medium range response, you can selectively select the number of wires which are needed to make that particular actuator by using shape memory alloy, right? So this is how it will be connected. We'll go back to our previous slide. So we were dealing with respect to bandwidth. So next, this enhancement in the bandwidth could be possible by establishing a technique. The arrangement of shape memory alloy wires in parallel is referred to be as an multiplexing actuator. So this technique is called as multiplexing several actuators. So this principle was established and described as shown in the diagram here. Okay, so this was also been designed very long back. It is not like a very new funda or the concept what you are understanding. This theory and concepts were developed long back, but only now related to the devices, it is now coming into the market. It could be either lead-free piezo or the shape memory alloy devices. Okay, so what did this approach mainly consist of? So the technique what we developed here to overcome the problem. What was the problem here? The problem here was it used to take a very long period of time to cool down. So to overcome this drawback, a new approach was developed. So this new approach was related to nickel-based titanium wires, which will be connected in parallel to overcome this particular problem. So by using nickel-based titanium alloy, it helps to enhance and provide an effective bandwidth. Okay, so this technique was termed to be as multiplexing actuators. Right? So to explain this approach, what was demonstrated, so that we are going to study now. So this approach demonstrated by using an beam made up of steel. Okay, so you applied a robust box beam made up of steel. So the beam what you used was of a robust design which was made up of steel, right? Further, the successful performance of multiplexing scheme has led to the analysis, design, fabrication, and testing of composite beam in which the nickel titanium alloy fibers were embedded. Okay, so here there is no diagram for the cantilever beam, but I can show you. So similar to this, there was a very robust cantilever beam, right? So bigger than this cantilever beam, and it was made up of steel. So on the surface of this steel beam, so many wires of shape memory alloys of nickel combination was embedded in parallel to enhance the bandwidth when there is a response for the external stimuli with respect to different modes of frequencies. Okay, so in this, a series of vibration tests were conducted. You know how the vibration test is conducted. So at the tip, you will be having a mass and you will be having a constraint at the other end of the cantilever, and you supply an external power supply so that the shape memory alloys will compress and expand periodically or continuously if you are subjecting a continuous amount of heat, right? You cannot subject a continuous amount of heat because it has to heat and it has to cool down also. Once it is totally cooled down, again only you will start up the heating cycle. So periodically you will subject the heat and cooling, heat and cooling. So this makes the shape memory alloy to expand and compress, right? So that the beam will be subjected to the vibrations and different modes of frequencies, and its first response and the second and the third response of the frequencies could be measured. So here also similarly a series of vibration tests were conducted on the huge robust box type of beam. Along with that, temperature measurements using an infrared camera. So you had a temperature measurement system also, right? So it measures the temperature digitally. And there was a camera also to observe how the variation is coming across the expansion, the compression, and recording of the values. So in this approach, the first two modes of composite beam were at 23.5 hertz. So this was the first mode, and the second mode was excited at a frequency of 144 hertz. In previous thing, when used to use a single nickel titanium based wire in the beam, we used to get the mode of frequency at the range of 32 hertz, 35 hertz only. But now you could see an enhancement in the width, in the bandwidth of the frequency. Why? We are using an multi-layered nickel-based titanium alloys. So this is a multiplexing concept what you have used, and as a result there is an enhancement in the bandwidth of the frequency. The first was at a very low value of 23.5 hertz, but you can observe the second frequency response was at 144 hertz respectively. So these were two modes of the composite beam which has been excited due to vibrations by the compression and addition of SMA wires which are arranged in parallel, right? So based on number of wires you have arranged, that much amount of enhancement in the bandwidth will be achieved. So the theoretical aspect, what we told here, the same thing is now figured out with respect to the values. The first mode was at 23.5. And now the second mode of frequency of excitation was at 144 hertz. So this is how the enhancement in the bandwidth is coming across. So why there was an enhancement? Because here the use of an array of actuators were done in parallel, right? So when the actuators are connected in parallel, what happens is the relationship of the signal driving one actuator can be taken to be as a rectangular pulse of period t suffix e. So this helps the desired structure to respond at a particular time period tr. So here you can see the actuator, right? So the actuators here are embedded in parallel on a robust compact beam made up of steel. So when this is compressed and expanded, you know that you will get different modes of vibration on the cantilever beam. So due to this compression and expansion, the different modes of frequency response are generated in the form of an wave, sinusoidal wave. So here it shows the time period which has been taken for driving one actuator and the time period taken to generate a rectangular pulse for the total period. So this is for one response. Okay, so one actuator response. So this is the time taken. right? So this is the T suffix E. Okay, so the signal driving one actuator taken to be as a rectangular pulse of period T suffix E. Similarly, if you want to measure the desired structural response, so the time taken will be T suffix R. So structural response will speak with respect to the beam, whereas the actuator response will speak with respect to T suffix E. So this is one actuator, and the response of it for cooling and heating will be measured by time suffix TE, right? But the actuator will be embedded on an substrate or an structure which is made up of rectangular steel beam. So the response to that structure is referred by the time period T suffix R. This should be superscript T suffix R as shown in the figure, right? So for understanding the concept, how it works exactly, 4 actuators in parallel have been assumed. So all these 4 actuators which yields with 4 different signals are connected in parallel. That I have told you already. So this is the thing what you have to understand. So we first conducted how the enhancement in the bandwidth get increased due to embedding many nickel titanium based alloys in parallel on an beam made up of robust box of stainless steel, right? So now we dealt with the graph here to understand the difference between the time period T suffix E and T suffix R. So T suffix E is the time period taken for the response of one actuator. So one actuator is, if you consider this is a response taken by the first actuator. So that will be given by the entire sinusoidal wave here, right from the beginning to end, because that actuator will be mapped on the entire beam of the structure. But if you want to know the variation which is coming across on a single structure of the beam, then the time response, what you have to understand is T suffix R. So this is the difference what you have to understand. Sometimes you people change. You will make this as T suffix E and this as T suffix R. Then your concept will become reverse. So be careful. For one actuator, one full sine wave, time response has to be considered because that actuator is embedded on the entire length of the beam. But if you want to take the structural response, you have to take 1/2 of your sine wave time period reference for the response analyzation, and that terminology is represented by T suffix R. Is that clear? Any doubts in it? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So, yeah. And as a result, the same thing we are still going in depth now. So excitation has a very short duty cycle. So what is this duty cycle termed as? It is the ratio of time on to the pulse length. Okay, what is the time which has been on and what is the pulse length you are getting for one response? So one response is nothing but the excitation for one frequency at a particular cycle. So in one cycle, you will get one sine wave, right? For the one sine wave, what is the excitation or which has been reached for one duty cycle? So one duty cycle is nothing but the ratio of time on to the pulse length. So this will be approximately equal to TR by 2. So I've told you this is TR, right? So if you need the short duty cycle, so it is a ratio of time divided by the pulse length. So this will be exactly equal to half the value of TR. So the duty cycle here, if this is considered as one duty cycle, so it will be exactly half of it. So you have to write TR by 2. So one duty cycle for the one excitation, the value will be T suffix R by 2. That means to say the portion of a cycle for the response during which the structure is moving in one direction. Obviously, when you have the actuator constrained on an beam at one hand and you provide the required voltage, so it expands and compresses to provide the required deformation or the amount of stress induced at the other end. So it moves in only one way, because the cantilever, if you consider this as a cantilever, it is constrained in one end. So on the surface of the cantilever, you have n number of SMA wires which are mounted parallel to each other, right? Since this is constrained at one hand, the amount of waves which generates as a response for different excitation frequency can move in a single direction. It cannot move in both the direction because it is constrained at one end and it is not freely moving. And hence, you will say that the portion of the cycle of the response during the structure, during which the structure is moving in only one direction. Structure is nothing but our beam, which is made up of stainless steel. Okay, so it moves only in one direction as the other end has been constrained. So in every cantilever, you'll be having constraint at one hand, and other end will be having different modes of frequency, right? So this thing you have to consider. If they say you as an one duty cycle, it is TR by 2. If it is the response for the structure, it is TR. And if it is response for one actuator cycle, it is TE. So this you have to remember. T suffix E for the entire actuator cycle, T suffix R for the structural response. And if you want to know one duty cycle, it is exactly half of the TR value, which is TR by 2. And one more concept is the structure will respond in a single direction, in one direction, because it is constrained on the other end. So these are the things what you have to remember. So this we were dealing with respect to the structure, right? So when we come back to that of our actuators, which are made up of shape memory alloy wires, so we have to see how the response is now. So the corresponding actuator responds quickly to the heating. You know that when you subject for heating, the actuator responds very quickly. And it produces an increase in the force during the one pulse. So in one pulse, right, it results in compression and expansion, and one pulse has been generated. So once this is done, what happens? The cooling has to take place, right? And it is told that cooling usually takes a large period of time. It cannot reach the value near to 0 degrees Celsius or below 0 degrees Celsius at a faster rate. As the heating rate is there consistently, how you design, even there will be a cooling rate by which only the temperature can gradually come down, right? So it relaxes during the succeeding 3.5 cycles of the structural response. So this is a difference what you have to understand. So this is one structural response, right? But one actuator response is so big. I told you already. So this is the value T suffix E for one actuator response, whereas T suffix R is one structural response. Why the time required is so lengthy? You didn't question me when I explained previously. Why? Because it goes on with n number of idle waves until it gets cooled. Because this is the first peak where it responds quickly for the heat, it gets expanded. Right from austenite, it goes to the martensite phase after twinning takes place. But for twinning of the martensite, it has to cool fully. So these all will be ideal waves which is needed, and this is like waste of sine waves, but it is needed until and unless the actuator reaches the cooling temperature. And hence the time required here for the actuator to reach the cooling cycle is comparatively more than that of the time for the structural response. That is why T suffix R will be always lesser than T suffix E, right? Why? It has a drawback because it takes much time to cool. So this drawback now has to be overcome. So that is the reason why we are using multiplexing embedded nickel titanium alloy based actuators. Right? So it succeeds, relax with how many cycles? 3.5 cycles. Okay. So if this is, you can see, right? This is one cycle, 2, 3, and half of it, 3.5 cycles. So it succeeds 3.5 cycles in comparison to that of the structural response. So the time required for cooling is comparatively more with respect to the structure of the beam. So it succeeds with 3.5 cycles for cooling and relaxation. So this is with respect to the actuator. So first what we told was with respect to our structure, and now we spoke with respect to our actuator. And one more thing what you have to understand is, no actuator is driven during negative going half of the first structural response. So the second, so you cannot start up with the excitation of the second actuator until this entire relaxing wave is completed for the cooling effect of the actuator 1. So no actuator could be excited until the first one is made clear. Okay, so no actuator will be driven during the negative going half of the first structural response. What do you mean by negative going half of the first structural response? We studied the hysteresis loop, right? So you have one side of the loop for heating and the other side of the loop for the cooling. So this will be positive cycle and this will be negative cycle because it is cooling. So the other half of the sine wave will represent the cooling effect. So until the cooling effect is not completed, you cannot excite the next actuator, right? And this has to be remembered. So every actuator has to wait until the previous actuator's cooling effect is completed. Once the actuator 1 cooling effect is completed, then only you can make the second actuator to get excited. So again, you have to wait until the cooling effect is over, then only you can excite the third actuator. After the cooling effect of the third actuator is over, then only you can excite the fourth actuator. You cannot do this one after the other without providing any time for cooling. So that is what I want to inform over here. So next, at the end of time TR, an identical pulse is applied to the second half of the 4 actuators. What do you mean by this? At the end of time TR. So time TR is nothing but the time associated with the structural response. So as the time TR comes towards the end, what you have to do here is identical pulse is applied to the second of the 4 actuators. So once this TR is completed, you will just make an application of the similar pulse to the second actuator. So the same pulse which was applied to the first actuator, the same thing has to be applied to the second. Okay, you cannot apply different pulse for different actuators. So all actuators of same configuration, same input to be given. You cannot vary the inputs. So you will keep ready the amount of pulse to be inputted will be same for all the actuators. So once the structural response is done, you will start applying the pulse for the second actuator, but you won't excite. You have to wait until the cooling effect is over for the first actuator. Once that is done, then you will start exciting the second actuator signal based on the amount of pulse which is being applied. So again, when TR of the second actuator gets completed, then you will apply the pulse for the third actuator, but you won't excite. You will wait until the second actuator cooling cycle has been completed. So again, for the last actuator wire, what you do is, once the structural response is clear for the structure, then you will start applying the same pulse for the fourth actuator. Later, it will be excited and you will again wait until the cooling effect for the fourth actuator is completed. Then only you can go back for the first actuator again for excitation. So this cycle continues on and on until you require the amount of output is been sufficiently available. So this is how it goes on working. I told you at the end of every time TR associated with the structure, the same pulse will be applied for the second of the four actuators. And this process goes on for the third actuator as well as the fourth actuator also. That's what been told. This process is repeated with the remaining two actuators because total we have four actuators which are connected in parallel. So it goes on and on until for all the actuators it is completed. So that after all four have been switched on, TR by 2 and allowed to cool for 7 TR by 2, the first is again activated. What do you mean by this? Anyone can tell me? You know the value of TR and half duty cycle is TR by 2 for one structural response. Similarly, when you go for half duty cycle for each, how many you will have? TR by 2, TR by 2, TR by 2, TR by 2, TR by 2. So it goes increasing the number of duty cycles, right? So when you want to allow this for cooling, the duty cycles will increase for 7 TR by 2. Because this is for the first actuator, and again you'll get for the second actuator, and again you'll get for third, and again you'll get for fourth actuator. So every time this is TR and this will be exactly TR by 2. After TR by 2, you have to wait for the waiting cycle for the cooling. So total number of duty cycle needed to cool down each actuator is TR by 2. So when you combine all the four actuators, the total cooling time needed will be equal to 7 TR by 2. So this is the value what you get for the combination of all four cycles. Okay. So once this duty cycle is over, so again the first actuator will be activated. So for the first one, it is TR by 2. And again, it goes on increasing for the second, third, and fourth. At the end of fourth, the amount of cooling cycle will be 7 TR by 2. Once this cooling cycle is over, and again the first actuator will be activated. And this process goes on. Okay, so this is how nickel-based titanium alloys are used as an actuators in a cantilever beam. So main function here is to reduce the time period for cooling. So when you add these actuators in parallel, it helps in reducing the time period. So this is about reducing the time period for cooling effect. So here finally they have shown theoretically how it has been reduced. Okay, so the cooling effect will reduce to 7 TR by 2, and again the first one is actuated. So lastly, before ending up, we have to conclude something. So here the force experienced by the structure is therefore the superposition of the four actuator outputs. Right, I told you that the force will be exerted on the structure. Why? You have a cantilever made up of stainless steel. On this cantilever, you have n number of actuators made up of nickel titanium based alloys, right? So due to the heat supplied to our nickel based titanium alloys, these alloys will expand and compress, which will change the phase from austenite to martensite. Full austenite for expansion, and when it compresses, it cools down, and that is your martensite phase. So it will expand. After expanding at that particular position, one twinning will happen, and again when it cools down, the de-twinning happens at a particular temperature, and finally it comes back to the cooling temperature. right? So due to this periodic expansion and contraction, some amount of force is being applied on the structure of our beam, right? And that is equal to superposition of the 4 actuators output, because you have 4 actuators connected in parallel. Each actuator will be having a particular output, and all the values of the output of the actuator will be superpositioned, okay? And that time will be equal to TE by 4. Okay, here the force experienced on structure we are analyzing, and hence the value should be T suffix R, right? It is superposition by 4 actuators. So the time period for one actuator is TE. Since it is superposition by 4 actuators, you have to divide that by 4. So TE upon 4 will always yield the time response for the structure due to the experienced force by expansion and compression of the shape memory alloy wire. So this thing you have to understand. So you should be knowing what do you mean by T suffix R, what do you mean by T suffix E, what is half duty cycle, and how the cooling rate is being reduced by using all the shape memory alloy wires arranged in parallel on a given beam. After that, due to this thermal expansion and compression, some amount of force will be exerted on the structure, right? This is due to the superposition of the actuators. So what is the time response for the structure? So that is nothing but TR. So that TR value will be equal to T suffix E upon 4. So this is the amount of force experienced by the structure for a time period T suffix R. Is this clear? Any doubts?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So generally, after you understand how the time period T suffix R is calculated for the force experienced by the structure, you should see that the force experienced by the structure will be always of frequency equal to the electrical driving frequency. So what do you mean by that? The amount of force experienced on the structure will be directly mapped with that of the frequency at which it is being excited. So it gets excited at a particular frequency because you're providing an input in the form of electrical voltage. So the force applied will be equally mapped with the amount of frequency you are getting based on the voltage what you are submitting as an input. So due to the voltage, you get compression and expansion, and the beam gets excited, right, on the resonance frequency, and this resonance frequency is driven electrically, right? And all these are connected with the help of actuators in parallel. This thing you have to keep in mind. The force experienced in the structure is due to the frequency response, and the frequency response is due to the electrical voltage which is being given as an input to the actuators. And since the actuators compress and expand, the structure gets excited at a particular frequency, and that is directly driven to the electrical voltage which has been given as an input. And this value will be always multiplied by the number of actuators you are connecting in parallel. So one value what you get is the force experienced by the structure for one particular actuator. You won't get totally for all the actuators. So if you want to calculate the force experienced on the structure for all the 4 actuators, you should multiply the value of force what you get into number of actuators what you are connecting in parallel. In this case, we are connecting 4 actuators. Suppose if you are connecting 6 actuators on a cantilever beam to enhance the bandwidth of the frequency and to reduce still the cooling effect of the shape memory alloys, then you should multiply the force experienced by the structure, what you get, into 6. because in the second case, I told you if you use 6 actuators, then the force experience should be multiplied into 6 actuators. Since here we are using 4 actuators, the force which has been experienced on the structure will be directly multiplied by the number of actuators which are connected in parallel. Okay, so here in this case, both the test specimens discussed here incorporated 4 actuators, what I told you exactly, and similarly each consisting of 1 or more shape memory alloy fibers electrically connected in series. So even this could be done. So we explained it for actuators connected in parallel. Similarly, this type of specimen can be discussed by using 4 actuators which are connecting in series. So then the same analysis could be checked. So in that case, when you pass current through the wires of an actuator, it will produce an bending moment and bending moment, and this will deflect the cantilever beam specimen towards the actuator. So in the first case, when it was connected in parallel, so the changes and the deformation and the vibrations were getting in a single direction of the cantilever, right? But now when you connect this in series, then the deflection of the cantilever specimen will be towards the direction in which the actuator is placed. Okay, so this we have to discuss in case of series connection. So it is always better to explain one in multiplexing. Either you can explain parallel or series. I have explained you the parallel concept. After explaining the parallel concept of multiplexing, you can just tell that the same thing could be done even for the actuators if it is connected in series. Okay, so this is related to how an multiplexing embedded nickel titanium based alloy helps in enhancement of the bandwidth of the frequency and reduce the cooling cycle for the shape memory alloys when it is subjected to a very high heat treatment process. So either it is in series or parallel, it depends upon whether the actuator wire is located nearer to the top or bottom face of the beam. Sometimes what happens that you will be having a beam, the top surface and the bottom surface. Sometimes you can connect the actuators in series across the surface of the beam or at the bottom surface, or you can connect the actuators across the top surface of the beam in parallel or at the bottom surface. So depending upon whether the actuators are laid above or top, there will be some fluctuations in the results what you will be getting. So this is about the entire concept of why multiplexing of nickel titanium based alloy actuators are needed, how we can enhance the bandwidth of the frequency, and how we can control the cooling time period required for a shape memory alloy when it is subjected to a very high heat treatment. So this completes our multiplexing system related to shape memory alloys. So from the next class, we will be starting up with the second part of our module 2, which mainly deals with magneto and electrorheological fluids. So this will be doing in the next class. If you have any doubts, you can kindly let me know now. Any doubts, students?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I hope I have evaluated and posted back your IA marks. Some have written well and some, I think 2 or 3 students have not written the all full questions. One questions they have missed and hence they might have got little bit of less marks. And second thing is you have to improve the way of communicating the answer, right? You should still present more and even the handwriting should be improved. So that will help you in adding more marks. And whenever there is a need for the sketch or the diagram, whether it is asked or not asked, kindly see that you draw a sketch. So that will help you for better understanding even while writing. And even when the person evaluates, he will get a clear picture that you are aware about the things, what it is exactly. So consider these steps and still write better in your second internals. Okay. Sukrut?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Sukrut, you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
Mithun
Yes, ma'am.
and Harsha. Harsha,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Srinidhi. Mohanambal was there. Where did she go? Everyone type your name and USN in the chat room also. Just type the name of Mohanambal also. She was there. I don't know where she is now. Kindly type Mohanambal name as well, anyone. Okay, so take care and have a nice day until we meet in the next class. Thank you. Bye-bye.